Welcome to part 3 of the software skills course for EstimatorXpress. In this session, we'll be going through creating an estimate via a template, have a little description of what templates are first, have a little look through estimating a lean-to single-story extension. It's not the most complicated job, but it should cover many of the bases that we will encounter in any other kind of estimating. Gives us an opportunity to look at, say, some new build aspects, some integrating with existing building parts, and renovation works along with it. As a reminder, if you have any questions, there is a questions box you can type into at any point during the session. If it's a question I can answer there and then, I will endeavour to do so. If not, it can be saved for the Q&A at the end. So don't feel that you can add to the session, or if you've just got a comment, a recommendation, a suggestion, or you just want me to go over something again, please let me know. Now there you go. I started off so well and I descended straight back into Bristolian in about 30 seconds. It didn't take long. That's what I get for trying to put on a posh voice. Now, we're starting off in the dashboard effectively today again. We're not going to be doing any work within the library this morning, unless you would like to do a postbook download before we begin. But now we are in the dashboard proper and the job section. In a moment, I'm going to be giving another little brief tour about these sections. Now, there is no work in my dashboard currently. I have nothing in the recent work, so that I am missing many of the graphs that will state the status of the work that I am working on, and the reminder saying this job is in progress, this job is awaiting feedback from the customer, this job was won, this job was lost. I don't have a list of the recent work listed on my screen. Now, just to keep things really easy, we've got a create job in the dashboard ribbon tab. So as you remember from the first session, everything when I say about tabs, I tend to refer to the items along the top, and I refer to the ribbon, I am referring to the section up here. That changes depending which tab I am clicking on. If I go to the left underneath the dashboard drop down, it might need to be expanded depending on what you've got clicked currently. I have jobs and grouped jobs. Not everyone will have both. Most of you may just have jobs. So I'm going to click on that now. As you see now, the ribbon tab has changed to jobs, and I've now got additional settings that I can use within this section. I've got no jobs currently listed, so I cannot see the name, number, description, the client name, the cost of the job, when it was last opened, when the build program was last updated, because you might be monitoring a job and things might change midway through. Its status or its file location. Basically, it will state where the job is saved. So if it won't open up, you say can't open the job, you've either deleted or moved it, or moved it, deleted it, I think that's where it puts it. Then you'll see that it's grayed out when you try and open it up here, just like it currently is now. Just for example's sake, if I just create a job very, very quickly, you don't have to follow along this one. I'm just going to create something to drop into, just do a mono pitch for now, a slightly different one. I'm creating this so I've got something to save, so I've got something to show you. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save on the top left. I'm going to save it in this file called takeoff extension, just so it's out of the way. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. An option to save upon exiting. You want to do that. If you say no and you've not saved anything, it will actually lose all your work. So you do want to make sure you are saving. And you'll see there now on my dashboard, I have recent work, its status, kind of the preview image associated with that one there. If I go to my jobs on the left-hand side, you'll see now I've got name, job number 1, description, client name. I can put the client name in. Cost, last opened. I've never updated the build program on this one. And most importantly, file location. So it's under my users. It's on my desktop, so I know where it is. It's actually in a folder called takeoff extension. This is important because if I was to move that file to tidy it up and put it in another file manually, drag and drop it into another folder, let's say, these options that appear to open job, copy job, and delete job will be, well, the copy and open will be grayed out. You will still be able to delete the job out of the listing if it's unable to be opened. This is a frequent occurrence because you just might tidy up what you've done. A lot of time when you create a job, you just might fling it onto your desktop, fling it onto your documents folder, then tidy it up later on, or move it to completed jobs folder or something like that as you're doing a bit of admin work and tidying things up and organizing. You can either say, in that case, when you can open it from here, you can either put it back to where it was to open it. If the software is not open, you can usually sneakily double click on the icon and it'll open up the job directly, as long as the software is not already open. Or you can use the import job to tell the software the estimate's new home. So you can say, oh no, it's living here now, import it in from here. It's important that it wants to know where the file is, because it opens up as a database. It's not something it can just go think it could be just dropped in anywhere. It needs to know effectively where it is to use it effectively. Yeah, that's an English sentence that fully makes sense. Anyway, let's get into actually opening a job and doing some work. I'm going to click on the create job. I'm going to go quote from job template. You can follow along with this one as well, please, because this is going to be the thing we're actually doing today. Quote from job template. Now, in the new version of the software, you'll see that you may only have 2 options there. I've engaged the third using an option under my settings to give me my legacy one of directly into calculators. What was missing is the custom template. The custom template options now live within the general quote template library. You see that the first 4, loft conversion, garage conversion, renovation, and customized build. Then we move on to the extensions and then to house builds and so forth there. For those that have not used the software before, a general brief description of what the templates are is in order. I'm going to start off with the normal templates. So the 5th one on was like Apex single story extension and so forth here. If I click on the building type and just go house, there we go. You see some standard templates or extension, so forth. These templates are pre-configured shapes and calculators so that you can quickly get estimating a simple type of build. So it will, with the input of the length of the walls, height of the walls, pitch of the roof, give you the basic shell of the construction: foundations, footings, walls, plastering, decoration, connecting walls, in the case of extensions, roof, and so forth. You can then refine that quickly by adding in doors, windows as appropriate, because that's going to be something we don't specify, because that's different for every job, and anything else you might want to add in, groundworks wise, external wise, and so forth. The advantage of the templates is that when you start off with a template, a lot of the calculators, a lot of the work you'll be doing is interlinked. And by that I mean, when you change the pitch of the roof, it changes the wall heights for the gables. When you add in a door, it removes the area of the door from the wall so you don't overestimate brick, block, plastering, and so forth. All those options link together, so changing one means you don't have to constantly change it elsewhere. Bit of a time saver. The other option there is the custom. The custom templates do not interlink with each other, except for yes, no for plastering and decoration, which is an option you can tick. The custom templates are basically lists of all the calculators you can use, and you go in and you use them as required. If you add in a wall and then add in a door and window, it will not remove the space from the door and window, because as far as it's concerned, you could be adding in a wall in one place and the door and window could be going in somewhere else. It's not a templated build. So it is ideal for situations where you are doing more bit work effectively. The renovation works where you might be bricking up a doorway, bricking up a window, putting a new opening in somewhere, bits of work here and there. And you can scale right up to quite large jobs. Garage conversions again, loft conversions again. So that's something with so it's not ideal to template. So it allows you to pick out the works you need to do, because you might have a roof shape that can just be populated with items, or you might need to be partly demolishing and rebuilding the roof, like a hip to gable kind of conversion. And then customized build as well. With the normal templates, you can slap two templates together to get a new shape. With the customized build, it's just customized build. You just work in there and you're done with. I'm going to go back to the all so you can see all of them there. And what we're going to be working in today is the lean-to single story extension. So I'm going to give that one a click, and you should have this screen appear. If not, if your software has gone directly into the estimate, please let me know in the questions box now. Or if you're not quite sure, hit the raise hand icon again, because I've just hit the lower button. No raised hands. Nothing in the questions box. In that case then, I shall presume this appeared for everyone. Fan-dabby-dozy. Right. In that case then, what we're going to do is populate with some information. So just to make our estimating a little bit easier, we can start telling it some certain things about the job that it can then use later on, as well as key things like who we're doing it for. That helps when you get to the quote. So we have job name, lean-to single story extension. That makes sense. But you might want to make it a little bit more, in line with, make it easier for you to identify, say, Mr. and Mrs. Brown's lean-to single story extension. You can bespoke it a little bit there. You also have the job description of single story extension. Now, this is an important one to note, because this is actually something that will appear on the quote at the end. We can say single story extension for the customer name. Job reference number 2, it's gone to number 2 because this is now the second estimate I've done in this software. You can set that to whatever you want it to be. Price book, using my master price book, the one we set up last Tuesday. Estimate calculators, we can ignore that because it's just going to use the ones that we need. It will not need a auto-generated list in the background to start with. We have a legacy feature, that one. Build program has a start date of the 15th of January, and it's currently set to be automatically calculated. There is also an option there for preset templates. The automatically calculated, what that means is it will look at the tasks you're doing, it will look at the labor, see how long it's taking to do an individual task, and then allocate the build program, the Gantt chart, and so forth to give you enough time to complete that task. We'll go into a little bit more of that in the next session, but suffice to say, it gives you a good starting point for your build program and project planning. You are always welcome to extend the phases. I fully recommend you do, to account for, say, other aspects in life that you may be aware of that the software is unaware of. But it does mean you know your ideal circumstances, kind of min build speed. So a project cannot be done in 3 weeks when the software is saying it's going to take 5, effectively. Sorry. On the client address, and I'm horrified to remember that I've reset my software, so I can't just type in a name, it's going to fill it out for me. So I'm just going to have to go with Mr. and Mrs. design, because I've always done that one. Address. Oh, do I have kind of finger for fake? It's terrible to finger for fake address because you always accidentally write down something almost too real. 45 Bradbury Street. Trying to think of other chocolate brands now. Marsfield. Trying to think of other. Ooh. I'll just leave it as a Marsfield and just put in Maltesers 1, 2, Galaxy chocolate. Just so we've got the client details in there. Now, handy thing is there is a tick box for copy details to the site address. So if the custom details is the same as the site address, which very likely to be on renovations, loft conversions, and extensions, they can be one and the same. Now we're on to specifying items for the job itself. So we've got specification, extension specification. We've looked through these before. I'm happy to leave this as my extension specification. I'm not going to use my training one because my training one has some very peculiar choices involved. I can look at my mini specs and see for the majority of walls that I can be building, when I look at the external wall brickwork, if it involves brick, what brick do I want to use for this job? Now, the default price brick for the template or for the specification is £1.20. So I could leave it as same as specification and it will pick a £1.20. I could say I want a £1.30 brick. For the roof tiling, it defaults to a plain tile. I'm going to say this is going to be a pan tile. Guttering is the same default spec as previously mentioned in the last session. Plastic half round. So many of these things you may not need to change. There is no flat roofing, so I can ignore that line. The fascias and soffits for the sloped roofs, it defaults to plastics, so I'm going to leave them. There are no suspended floor joists to deal with. I'm not doing a timber floor in this, so I don't have to worry about floorboards either. Decoration is just going to be using the extension spec for things, and labor and plant is going to be using a mini digger and driver because that is the extension spec. I could say, oh, this extension I'm going to be using a JCB because it's a really big extension. You can do, or you've got no access at all and set it to manual labor. Once I've got my settings for this job and I'm happy with this, and I can even review my profit markup I want to be making on this job, I might be aware of the customer's shenanigans on buying materials for the job, or there's certain things that they just want with it, or you've noticed that they've got a Bugatti on their driveway and you think, I'll put 5% extra on this. And I'm just going to click create job. Yeah, it could be any reason why you want to put an extra 5%. You might notice a flag hanging from the window from an opposing football team and go, well, I'm having none of that. So, and you're lucky enough to live in a city with two football teams, will know the city rivalry that can occur from that one. Here in Bristol, we've got Bristol City and Bristol Rovers. Generally, the theme is if it's south side of the city, you're a City fan. If you're north side of the river, you're a Rovers fan. The rivalry is not as strong these days as it used to be, but it's more about just taking the mick out of the other person now than anything else. My apologies. Now, we have entered the template. Woohoo! And I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour through this in case this is your first time here. Our ribbon has changed. So we have EstimatorXpress options, default software themes, because there's not really much now for the ribbon to manage at this point. You know, and a template setup box come up. What's it asking in the template setup box? Oh, I used to have that. I've come in mind. It should be a drop-down menu. If you pick the one that you're going to be using for this job, so cut roof, truss roof, whatever, then just click OK, and then it shouldn't worry about that. I think it's just triggered a question. I used to get the same before I reinstalled. Yeah, it was a question at one point. I think, have you had your software installed a while? Got a feeling, yeah, that'd be why then. Yeah, you had what I had. It's a legacy question still triggering. That's why whatever you click, you can just click OK and carry on. Oh, I was panicking then. It's like, no, I've had that one. On the sessions when I used to do this, it used to pop up. I had to click OK on it, and people go, I didn't get that box. So that's the other way around now. Right. Main quote template. You can see where we are because it says so in the blue bar at the top, the Chrome bar. On the left-hand side, you'll see that we have a main quote template. We have our main estimate, which we'll get to a little visit to hopefully in the next session. There shouldn't be any reason for to go into that one in this session. And we've got our build program, smart scheduler, quote and outputs, and job settings. The job settings is a very smaller section, but it's where the materials and labor and such prices are kept. It's a copy of the price book that we were working on last Tuesday. Then again, the specification is a copy of the specification. So we can make changes within the job and it won't affect the rest of the software, meaning you can bespoke it to a customer's requirements or just tinker with it to your heart's content just to see what does what. Don't worry about breaking it. Sometimes if you're worried about something going horribly wrong, I find that this is something I find. I'm going to start that again. Sentence has gone wayward. I find that in tech, people often are avoiding curiosity because they fear things will go wrong. Don't worry, if you're just doing a job like this to learn with, you can tinker, poke, test to your heart's content. It is not combustible. And to continue with my little tour, the first thing I'm going to point out is there is a jump to section. It's a drop-down box. This will probably be the best way to navigate around the job or larger jobs at the very least, especially if you've got lots of items in there. It's in alphabetical order. So unless you're like me and you have to recite the alphabet every time you need to try and get to like G or something like that, then it should be easy to jump to the various sections, external doors, external walls, external works, fitting out floors, internal cavity walls, and so forth. The rest of the software is actually done in kind of like a logical kind of ground up. So external walls, which includes the footings, foundations, floors, roofs, plasterings, connecting walls, and then the bits we start filling out, bespoking it. At the top again, you notice as well that those options always stay along the top, no matter where I scroll. We also have an error check just to see if there's any daft numbers that have been input or decimal points in the wrong place. Doesn't necessarily know, but if you see 2 decimal points in there, it'll be able to pick that kind of thing out. We have an assumptions and omissions, which we will get to towards the end. Just had an update with that one in the recent updates. A provisional sums tab, allowing us to add in provisional sums. Important thing to note on this, we're going to add one into this in a future session if we have time. This does not include profit and overhead. So if you're going to put something into the provisional sum section, make sure it's your post-profit value or the value that the customer is expecting. There's a client contact details button in case you forgot to fill that out, and a cost breakdown button, which we can use more later on. But it's just nice way of seeing what the cost is for jobs, where the cost is coming from, what's the cost of materials or labor in this case as well. Or we can look at by build phase. We've not added doors and windows in, so masonry shell still the most costly phase, and a editable resource breakdown section, which we'll hopefully go through at the end. You'll see a running tally of construction cost, what your profits and overheads on the job are, and what your sales price is, excluding VAT. And then we're on to the actual input bit. Now, in a custom template, you won't have this. It'll just jump straight to the calculators. But in a template like the lean-to single story here, or house ones or garages, it will ask us those key dimensions. So for this one, a little look at my cheat sheet, just set the cavity walls to 1.2, I was going to be doing that. What's my walls going to be at? Yes, okay. I'm going to change that to 5 meters. That was it. Now, before I click off this, make a note of the construction cost. Near 21 grand. Click off that. 18.5, just over 18.5. It's not so much that it's lost 2 grand odd with the 1 meter shorter wall. It's also 1 meter short of the roof. So that's a couple of meters square of tiling, felt batten, plastering to the underside, timbers, insulation. Is also a couple of meters square short of the slab, the screed, sub-base, MOT, flooring insulation. Also, again, as well, less plastering in the connecting wall. So just one dimension change feeds through to all the other calculators, so the job cost will actually drop significantly just for that 1 meter change. So I'm going to leave this extension as 3 meters by 5 and give it, it's going to be decent size there. You'll also note that the image does not change. Sorry. So the sorry, I've lost track as someone interrupted me. Yes, the image does not change. It's just a kind of a default image, just to give you an idea of the kind of job there. So no doors and windows in this yet already. On the extension to building settings, this is where we've got some opportunity to kind of tailor this going forward, so we don't have to keep making changes later on. So we have allow for plastering, yes. Allow for decoration, tick box, yes. We can turn that off because maybe we don't want to include the decoration. Many customers want to have the decoration removed. They do it themselves to try and save some money. I always get a little bit kind of like turned by that one because I prefer to have the decoration under the builder's remit, because then they are in control of the finish. Nothing worse than doing a fantastic job and then the customer messing it up, especially if they don't apply paint to plaster correctly. They just whack it on and then it goes bad in a short period of time, and then they complain about the work done. Makes the builder look bad, even though what they had done was up to a high standard. It's just the customer had messed it up. And they don't tend to be gracious enough to understand that, you don't slap one coat paint straight on top of plaster. It shouldn't do anyway. Anyway, allow for internal finish to the external wall. So basically what was the external brick wall or block wall is now going to be rendered and plasterboarded. Don't have to decorate phase and soffit, unticked. Then we've got cavity wall foundation depth below site strip. Now I'm going to set this to 1.2 and see if this feeds through. So basically, for any cavity walls, what's the depth of it going to be? Because we can have more than one cavity wall and we can add additional walls into this, every time it goes to add one in, it'll look to this line and say, what's my foundation depth going to be on this job? And same thing for single skin walls as well, if you were to do any. This job has no single skin walls, so I can ignore it. We have the ceiling height downstairs at 2.4, so basically, when we get to two-story buildings, let's say ceiling height downstairs, ceiling height upstairs, and then thickness of the floors between. But in this case, we can just run with ceiling height downstairs and treat that as the wall plate height. That's going to be 2.4. We have the roof pitch downstairs, and again, because we can have roof pitches downstairs and roof pitches upstairs. So main roofs, smaller roofs for the separate sections of the build. It does have that terminology. I'm going to set this on to 22 degrees. So we've got a 22-degree roof on this one. The spacing of the tile spacing downstairs, that engaged downstairs, and this is one that's been actually raised about terminology as well on things. 0.3. That's fine. That's going to match my pan tile that I'm using. If I was using a slate, I might change it down to 0.2. If I was using a plain tile, 0.1. A feature that would be new onto this is the parapet walls to all roof eaves. So we can now add parapet walls to the eaves and also parapet walls just to the gables as well. This will be a new feature, so if you've had the software for a while, this will allow you now to do the parapets as part of the template and to add them on as additional items. I'll leave them unticked for this as it's not within the default, well, it's not within the design I'm copying. But along with that as well, soft eaves, or soft width to eaves 0.2, soft width to gables 0.15. That will be the key settings. There are some additional standard settings we can visit where we can make changes in here for the job, or we can save as defaults to affect all future jobs as well. A good example of this one is cavity wall foundation width on the second tab there. We still use our foundation width as 0.6. That's our default. There are many authorities that we've dealt with and estimated work within. 0.6 walls are still fine and allowed even for walls that are 140 or 150 mil cavity. So 350 wall still sitting on a 600 wide foundation. The weight of the wall is the same. It's just spread out a little bit more. But some local authorities have, like I said, I know at least one, because I've got a learner in one of my sessions that's had to go through this. 0.65. So they've had to go in here, they've changed that to 0.65 and they've saved it as default. So any work they do automatically sets their foundation widths to be appropriate for what the local authority will be expecting. Not so much they're doing it for the local authority, but the plans they're getting will be to that. So they're already expecting to dig them to 0.65 for the building inspector. Marginal cost for it, right? Now, you'll see there is some defaults there for garage conversion. Many of these things you really won't need to change unless you're constantly having to come in here or change things. So if you do your joist centers anything other than 0.4, then you can change it to 0.45 or whatever you do constantly. But these are the standard settings that the vast majority of people use, but you can bespoke them if need be, so you don't have to change them every time. I'm going to click OK. Since I didn't change anything, shouldn't change the price of anything. Now, a little confirmation of the resource specification. You can always change that here as well before progressing further if something does need to change. And then we can move on. So we're going to get into the actual walls now. We're going to start looking at some calculators. So we have, starting off with the external walls, and there is under the specification downstairs brick and block cavity wall strip foundation for extension. If I click on that, you'll see that there are quite a few different walls I can swap in here. Strip foundations, raft foundations, brick and ICF, brick and SIPs, brick and timber frame. So I allowed timber frames as part of the template now as well, which is a new addition. So to add the timber frame in separately is now all part of, as well as walls with stone plinths. You can swap that to any other material. So it could be brick plinths as well. As well as say fiber cement clad, rendered block and SIPs, stone and timber, stone. Yeah, it goes on. It goes on for quite a while. Solid block, solid brick walls, and so forth. But at the bottom, there are still the brick and block walls, the brick and ICF walls, brick and SIPs. Now, I did cover at the end of last session the difference between these two calculators. So we have covered what the old calculators are like what questions they ask us, and the new. For this session, we are going to be using the new. If you do wish to use the legacy ones, though, they are at the bottom. Since we are using exclusively the new one, the resources wizard is not available, as it's all controlled under the DIMS, as the one DIMS section, well, the dimensions wizard, affects specification, general settings, any openings, and so forth there. On the specification, I'm not going to make any changes to this. I am happy with the resources being used. I'm happy with my 140mm cavity with a 90mm board. Again, if you are working where they prefer 150mm cavities, you can quickly switch that over to 150mm cavity here. Clear cavity or full fill cavity, whichever is going to be your specification. Also add in as well some 100mm cavities with full fill, which is another one that is being allowed in certain authorities as well. It's such a annoying subject to talk about in many regards, because like, where are you? What's your local council? What's their opinion on this? Unfortunately, there's not a master spreadsheet describing what every council will allow. Though you can, from your local authority, request what they will allow. So you can keep within those. And if someone asks you to build something different, you can just say nope, or this needs additional work or checking. And close that down. We did look through the changing the items in the last session as well, so I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to go to the General tab, confirm the height, the length of the walls, number of identical walls 1, depth of floor zone 0. I'm not doing 2 stories, so we don't have to exclude a section of the height for where the floor is going to go. And just to highlight as well, a new addition to the walling is parged. So is the wall parged or parging. Basically a skim coat of cement effectively on the inner leaf blockwork to reduce heat transmission through draftiness. So if there's any chance there could be airflow through an aerated block of any kind, that is to reduce it for thermal U values and everything along those lines there to stop any kind of movement of air. You can turn that off just with a quick click. You can also dictate if there's a wall to be left unskirted as well, because you might be doing an extension that is half and half. Half of it's in use as a living space, the other half might be a utility or service room, and you don't need to skirt it or anything like that. Or it might be a section of wall that is being a wet room for a bathroom, so you don't need to worry about the skirting in there because it's going to be seamed upstand on vinyl flooring or something. On the openings tab, when you are working within a template, it will say, we'll have a tick box there for let the quote template manage the list of openings. And what this means is, as you add openings into the estimate, they will be listed in here and their dimensions will be used to exclude from this area here. So you don't end up with too many bricks. You can manually add openings in if need be as well, because there might be some like a brick feature or something you're just doing in that you just want to kind of like exclude brickwork for. But generally, any opening you add in, being structural opening, door, window, anything like that, will be listed in here by default. Gable width, so width of gable, area of gable, length of gable of top, width of plastering, and we'll make a little note in here as well. Width of plastered wall, area of plastered wall, currently 0. We'll also note that these have green options around them. So gable plastered, decorated internally, both set to no, but they have greens around them. make note of that. We have no parapet wall, so those dimensions are zeroed. Our foundations at 1.2 as linked in, and because we've gone to 1.2, it's increased the structural concrete thickness to 0.8. There is a mass concrete there. If you're doing really deep foundations, you can manually, we can tell it to do 2 fills, first fill of concrete, second fill of concrete. First fill could be a cheaper concrete or so forth, just to mass fit it, as it says. And also options to plan construct the excavation. Mine sets though any excavation deeper than 1 meter will automatically plan construct it. And then we have footing details as well. Now it defaults to not have trench blocks in there on the one that I've selected. So it's given me the extra thickness in block work on the front, well, internally and externally as well. On the templates of walls I can pick from, I'm just going to click OK, just to highlight, there are strip foundations. You can pick that. You can just drop in your trench block, or just change it within the calculator if you need them. So any questions about that section? I'll move on to the floors. You'll find that for the first section, it's just generally a lot of, unless you're really bespoking it, kind of just checking that it's picked appropriate settings, what the correct cavity thickness is and such. Then moving on to the next one. Now on the floors, we default to an extension slab ground bearing. This will not be reinforced and is not insulated. It's leaving the insulation to the floor finish under the screed. So the screed is mesh and insulation is screed over the top. I can pick out a different setting for this. I can pick out beam and block or insulated timber floor and uninsulated timber floor. But I will have to make a note though, if I pick out something like the beam and block, that includes its screed as part of it, and the timber floor doesn't need screed, so I can actually then set this one as not required. So if there are sections that are templated that you don't actually need because you're using something else, you can go in there and say, I don't need the screed. You can say, I don't even need the slab. You could be building this on an existing slab. You might be building a garage or a shed on top of an existing slab. Outbuilding office. What I can do though is I can change the thickness of the slab. Is that? So have a look at my cheat sheet. Is there anything for slab thicknesses? Yes, 0.15. Now I can just change that on the external and just crack on. If I'm working at speed, I'm trying to get the estimate done as fast as possible, just change the thickness, move on. If I look into the dims for this though, I'll see that it's taken the irregular area, so it's using the calculated area from our template to work this instead of length and width. I can click on tech tips and tech labels so I can see what it is actually filling in. So sand blinding subbase. Wait a second. We've got options there for DPM, installation set to no, reinforcement set to no, and also going to set the power float finish or float finish to no as well. It's not required. We'll also highlight the fact that the slab is got a figure in red. Now the red indicates that it's a figure that's been overwritten from its default template one. So if I hover over that, it says automatically set value was 0.1, so 100 mil slab on this for the extension. So if I do need to return it back to its linked value, I can do, but the rays just indicate that I've changed it and is no longer linked. If I was to manually change the height of the wall or manually change the length of the wall, that value would no longer be linked. Then I could change the template and nothing would actually feed through to that wall because I've overridden it. And on the Final page, what plant I'm going to need. So excavator for 4 hours to move the MOT and so forth there. Plate compactor for a day. Bulk hoppers for a day, which I don't actually need because it's not reinforced. Don't need the power float. And then I've got number of deliveries and collections for plants. So this is time allowed for, or either money allowed for deliveries to be made to site of things like the plate compactor, or time for someone to go off site, drive to the rental place, grab the equipment, drive back, and at least then there's money going in to pay them for that task, because while they're off site, they're not doing anything on site to earn that pay. Click finish. And then move on. So I've got the screed in there. I'm going to leave that one for now. I'm going to move on to roofs. Now currently it's defaulting to a cut roof, which is appropriate for a lean-to. And I've got the internal as plaster and insulate flat ceiling. I could go in, I could change that manually in the DIMS, but I can also quite happily change this to go plaster and insulate to rafters. Or there's even do not plaster and insulate at all, I might be doing a garage roof. But if I go plaster and insulate to rafters, my job cost will change, which is one thing. In the DIMS wizard, if I look at this now, just confirm, put 22 degrees. I might even get rid of the purlins actually, because I could put some Velux windows in there. I've got those figures I referenced earlier on, the 0.4 from the default settings feeding through the joist centers. Thickness of the wall is accounted for. The clear span between the internal edges of the wall is accounted for. So it's done it all in sections. 0.3 fed through from that front section. I can overwrite the gable abutment now, because you might be doing extension and it might not be fully flat against the wall. It might be a little corner of it, or half of one end might be abutting against the wall. It's not quite an infill corner section, but it's enough that you might need to attach it to maybe an overhanging roof next door or against a wall or so forth. In which case, we can say number of abutments 1, and actually manually adjust the length of the abutment to be, say, it's abutting for 1.5 meters on one edge. We can overwrite the figures in here to make it suit what it is we need to build, because nothing is straightforward. There's always the odd thing that might be feeding through. It's 3.4513. 3.1. What's it? 3.45. It's picking out as higher than expected, but that is fine. Now it's got the installation to rafters, yes. Tiling installation to ceiling, no. Tiling details defaults to plastics, or say a dry fix system for the verges. So the ridge there will be non-point. I'll actually, on that point of the ridge, I'm actually going to go back to page 1 on this one. You'll see that there is a value of 0 within here and a note saying in lean-to roofs, this wall thickness should be set to 0. In monopitch roofs, where the roof extends over the wall, enter thickness. As soon as there is a figure within here, it changes it from using lead work along the top to ridge, just to kind of inform you on that one there as well. Go back to here and move on. Plaster and decorate to the underside, yes. Finish. Now the key thing of this is that by choosing plaster and insulate rafters, if I go back to my walling and click on DIMS here, fingers crossed this works because there's a new calculator, go to my gables, and now the gable is plastered and decorated. So now that is an area on the lean-to that is going to get, is going to be exposed. It's treated appropriately. That's the handy thing about it all linking together. Now, we're past the bits where it's templated, the bits that are easy to kind of guess ahead of time. Now onto the bits that are all subjective and down to the whims of the customer and the architect, such as structural openings. Now, these next sections are all done in a kind of logical, this needs to be done before this, so this can then do this. So we've got our structural openings, and then it wants to do plastering, so it knows where to plaster within these walls around the structural opening effectively. And we've got external doors and windows around, so we can put them in because we've done the externals. Same with the roof. Then it asks us for internal cavity walls, internal single skin walls, internal single lightweight like stud work. And then once we've done those walls, we can then add in doors into them. And then once we've got our lightweight walls internally and so forth on our doors, we've got our rooms effectively designed, we can use the rooms tool to populate those rooms one by one, where appropriate, with plumbing items, electrical items, flooring, bathrooms, kitchens, and so forth via the rooms. And then we can kind of finish off with, walling sundries, individual plumbing items, and so forth there, renovation, demolition costs, drainage, external works, landscaping. I'm going to scroll back up to where we were on the structural openings. I'm going to click select item to add. Now, depending on what you've got running, if you're using the older versions, at least some of these were added recently, so you should all have the select still from catalog, or openings to new walls, which is the older ones. Some of you may not have the openings to new walls, openings to existing walls, if you've just purely the new version of software. I've got mine set to show legacy calculators, mainly because I have to be able to import and work on other people's stuff. So for this, I'm going to go select steel or lintel from catalog for a structural openings to external wall. Give it a click. And this is the first time, say, in this job, we are greeted with a specifier. Now, the specifier, you say, or picker, or I say, whatever you want to call it, this allows us to choose via selection boxes and drop-down menus an appropriate item. This is particularly useful when whatever we're going to be putting in has a huge range of options. A structural opening could have one still, it could have two stills, it could have a single still with a metal plate welded on, it could be a concrete lintel or double concrete lintel, it could be a steel single leaf, steel double leaf, or have no requirements at all. AKA, there's already an opening there. That's, it might be a steel stretching across a door and window. You're just removing the door and window and making it into an opening. You don't need to remove the existing. You have an option to do so there. For this, I'm going to select two loose steels. There we go. Right. Now, starting off at the top, got things like not required or to be defined, which can be useful if you're trying to estimate for something. You need to get the opening in there, but they've not given you the information about the steel work. You can just put to be defined and come back later to add the steel in. But for now, I'm going to pick out some appropriate steels for this job. I'm not going to bother going straight to the type. I find it's easier to go to heights and widths. Actually, working from the bottom is probably a good rule of thumb from this one. Let's say I need a steel that is 203 in height. 178 is usually going to be one that is popular, but we do have the habit now of all steels being over-egged somewhat. So height 203. I can go to width then and see what widths are available as a 203 height steel. So we've got 102, 133, 152, and 203. So 3 beams and a column. I'm going to go with the 102. We've got 102 by 203. Big joist. Joist is 178 by 102, isn't it? But yeah, so this now is wide enough to take a single leaf. Select that one, click select. The filter is still applied. So even though I click select, it might not look like it's changed. The button is now select and finish, and it's still filtered to that one. If I was actually to remove the filters, I can now pick the second still freely. It might be a wider still. It might be a 203 by 152 because one of the leaves on the existing property is really, really thick. It could be stone or whatever. I'm going to do the same filters again. Let's say 102 and height 203 and pick the same one again. And there's one opening in here. So I'm going to click OK. Yeah. Now I've got the actual wizard to define the dimensions of this. So I've picked the resource being used, the steel I'm using, and now I can say how wide it is, what's it going in. It's given me 2.1 off the ground by default, 3 meters wide, with an end bearing of 150 mil, so 0.15. For the most part, you might just need to change the width of this steel. I could make mine 3.5 wide. If you do need to make that higher, I'm going to say the 2.1 higher, so it's matching with ceiling, so you're not having a bulkhead going into the extension, which is a likely case, especially when you've got a big open one. That there's some of the following options you might need to increase appropriately. You want to set the height of this to, say, the ceiling height at the very least, or maybe higher, to give yourself the extra work. So pad stones required, yes. Engineering bricks if you need any. Allowance per meter for lintel fabrication. So if there's any special welding needs to go on, especially for like the case of the flat plate being welded onto a steel, you've got a cost to it. There is a remove wall area equal to the new opening, which is a yes/no. I'd say an alternative area to be removed. This is if you're being really precise, because you might have an opening that is, if I was to say 6.1, so we could be 7 or so meters square of opening going in, and there's already a door and window there, so you actually only need to remove 3.5 or 3 meters square worth of material for the opening to be complete. So you can be really precise for it. I like to just say yes to it and just treat the whole area as demolition, because it's better, in my opinion, to over-egg a little bit, just have a little bit more, because it's all coming out. You can treat the door and window being removed as part of that if you can be lazy. If you're speed estimating as well, you can just say, well, that's the whole area, including door and window coming out. It all goes in a skip, done. Or at least in a skip, not all together. We do have bulking in factor of spoil, so 0.2, so everything coming out is factored in, so that's height and width by 0.3 for the section through wall, or say wall thickness there, 0.3. And then we've got number of hours to form opening, because again, it doesn't know the difficulty of this. We've got 10 hours to form the opening here. We could make this 16 hours to form the opening. It could be a little bit more difficult. Getting in the supports might be a little bit more tedious. If you're putting this so it's flush with the ceiling, the bottom of the steel is flush with the ceiling, then you've got even longer time to do that, because then you're having to support the floor if the beams or timber is running into that part of the wall, and then building around that. So the hours to form the opening just jumps right up. So that's subjective. That's up for you to decide depending on the complexity of it. And then 4 hours to fix the lintels in there as well. I might just bump that up to 6, a little bit bigger. On the next page, we've got some plastering details. And for the most part, it's just focusing on plastering the reveals and on underneath the side of the steel, things like fireproof board. There is a number of angle beads required, 0, 1, or 2. There's actually a number of sides requiring angle bead. If you hover over it, it'll actually state that question. Do both sides require angle bead? Number of sides to make good plaster. Now this is an interesting one, because if you're putting an opening in and you're not doing anything else, you can use both sides to make good plaster to fix the hole you just butchered in the wall. In our case though, On the external side, we don't need to make good because there's nothing to make good. It's going to get a fresh coat of plaster anyway. So that could be down to one side needs doing. And depending on what we're doing in the internal side of the room, it could only just be no sides because we're renovating the internals. I'm going to leave it as 2 because I do intend later on to use the existing side of this wall as part of a room to reskim. And that's only going to be skim. So if there's any browning plaster required or to make good around, then I will want that included. So I'm going to leave that as number of sides to make good 1. And it gives me a perimeter of making good around there as well. So 0.2, 20 centimeters, 200 mil of space around the opening to estimate the plaster required. And on the final page, spacing of the support props. We've got time required for acro props in days and strong boys in days as well. Little tip with this one, if you're using needles, but you don't want to be bothering to change the resources, double the number of props compared to strong boys. You've got the cost in there, but you still need the double amount of props because you need 1 each end for the needle compared to the prop for the strong boy. Got spacing at 0.9, time required for disc cutter, time required for wheelbarrow, shovel, and numbers of deliveries and collections to plant. 0, but you could put something in there if you're going to be sending someone off to go pick up those items. And then we can just click finish. So now we've got our opening in, and it's already said this is going in the existing wall between main building and extension. We can add more than one in and say it's going in another wall. There might be a structural opening we're adding in to the house itself. So we could add more than one in, and one in to enter the extension, and another one internally to maybe extend the living room and dining room together. So they all flow through. You've got one very long front to back of the house room. And that will subsequently affect things like the plastering to existing connecting walls. Now we've got internal side and external side. Internal side, so plaster and skim. I'm actually going to say not required on that one. I've made good around the plaster for the time being, at the very least. And external side, I will need to plaster and skim the exterior wall to make it a plastered and decorated wall. So I'm going to leave that one there. Moving down, I get to my external doors. Got select type, door type to add. So I can look through my plan and see what doors are involved, what's going to be needed to be added in, and what options I've got in here to work with. Going from this, I've got select bifold patio door from catalogue. I can go for French doors, patio doors, garage doors. And if something that is not templated in there doesn't really fit any requirements, you do have custom sized doors as well, so you can define the size of it as needed. I am going to go with the very top option, which is select bifold door from catalogue. And again, this gives us another picker, the specifier to choose from. And again, we can use the filters to go from all the options available to bring this down to something a little bit more sensible. So range and spec, I can go for aluminium 4-door and say width 3 meters wide. If I clear that, and I could pick the width first, say 3300, and see what that is. There's only aluminium 5-door as part of that one. If I go to width 4.2, it's only aluminium 6-door available for that one, for the templates I've got at least anyway. If I say my bifold door is 3 meters and aluminium 4-door, and it gives me a meter width either side of the door as well for my extension. I'm going to select that door, and again now I can choose what is going to be supporting this. Is it big enough, or is there going to be enough above it to warrant stills, or can I currently get away with the combination lintel, which is another addition to this list because it's appropriate for this. So if I go combination lintel, select that one there. It's picked out one at correct length at 3300, but it's on a wall lintel, 1050 to 125. I need it to be 140. So I can go cavity width 125 to 140. Set the length as 3300. That's what I need. There we go. And then I've got a standard duty cavity wall lintel that I can pick for this task. Select that one. Get my 140mm cavity closers. Select those. Number of doors 1. It's going to be factory finished. As this is just basically asking, does it all the decorating options, yes, no. So it's easy to have this as a pop-up. So yes, it's factory finished. So when we do get to this wizard now, we have less to change. It's already picked out 4 leaves, area of the door, so 6.3, 2.1 by 3, door perimeter, so nose for cavity closure and so forth, door pre-hung, nope, door pre-glazed. Yes, I might change that one there. Do I need separate door furniture? Nope, it's part of the door. Do I need separate door hinges? Nope, it's part of the door. I can click through just to confirm things like, are the reveals plaster? Yes. Is the sill plastered? Nope, because I'm not doing that. Decoration, as mentioned, all preset to being no, because the door does not need painting because it's factory finished. Click finish. And job done. We can go in there and look at the resources for this if need be. So what the door is. Again, we can go in there. If the spec does change, we can change the external combination lintel to something else if need be. Now we move on to the windows. Now, if you've got any questions as we're going along, please pop them into the questions box. I'll answer them as we go along. Now, moving on, we can drop a quick window in here just so we can look at the window options as well. We don't have our own large templated list, so instead we use the crystal ones in lieu of that. If the door is wider than those on the list, custom size door. Let's say custom size patio door. If you've got a bifold door, that's like 7 meters, custom size patio door. Then you can, it will do all the same options as the standard one, but what it will do is set the door as to be defined and the steel/lintel to be defined. So you can either use the line in there to put in the steel or lintel if needed, or you can use the steel calculators, which will towards the bottom of the list, to do the steel for that one. Because if it's going to be like a mega long one, then it's very likely you're going to be using a custom frame of steel, like a letterbox or something like that, to do it anyway. So that would just give you the reveals, the work to fit it, and so forth. And the door can then be either added in as a unit cost, create the resource for it, or you can put it in as something like, say, subcontract cost or provisional sum, which is very likely that if you're getting in something like a 7 meter bifold, which I've dealt with them in the past, massive stills, support it, then the customer might already be aware of the cost for it, because they might, those kind of projects, they tend to kind of be looking into those things beforehand. So you can just put the cost in somewhere else separately. But you will want to have that added in, so then it excludes the 7 by, let's see, 2.1, 14.7 meters square of brickwork that you're not going to need, and block work and insulation. 14.7, is that right? Oh no, calculator properly, you can see me cheating. 2.1 times 7. Yeah, 14.7. I did it right. Ooh, I did maths. Oh, that's making me feel tired. That I'd think of doing maths. So I get software to do it for me. If I think for myself, I'll start getting all tired. But yes, for this, I'm going to go to the Windows, and I'm just going to select a templated PVCU window. Just one of ours, because the crystal ones is very much like our other pickers you've previously seen. I'm going to just grab in there a 12, say 600 by 1200 little window. And click OK, and just say one of. This is more just for example's sake. So we have a window you can look at. Isn't it wonderful? But also, so I can highlight the select top treatment to add on external doors, select top treatment to add on the windows, and select bottom treatment. Because here you can add in stone sills or stone arches or stone headers above each window. And you can set it to certain types of windows, not all of them, number of. So it's a useful tool to kind of highlight. Now I can go into the Windows section here now and change the lintel, because I do know for a fact that the lintel associated with that 600 by 1200 window is a steel 100mm lintel. It's not appropriate for 140mm cavity. I'm going to make note of that because I can always go back to that later on to change it. I could go into the resources and change it now. I want to save it for later. I'm going to go though into roof windows pitched roofs. Defines that because when you look at calculators, you've got roof windows for flat roofs. But I'm going to go select Velux roof windows from catalog. Again, it's another picker. So keeping things consistent with themes. We're adding more and more things into pickers over time. From this, I'm going to select a center pivot window, which reduces the list of available options there. Now, this was done based on the Velux catalog online via their own picking system as well. So it should be that whatever widths and heights are there, you only have the color and glazing options that are also available for that size window. So generally, if someone wants a window of a certain size and a certain glass, if you can't find it in here, it's very likely that you're not going to be able to buy it. You might have to either ask Velux directly or seek another supplier of a different brand, like Facro or whatever. Opening control mode, I'm going to go with manual. Just, if you try solar powered, you end up with a really small selection of windows on that one. I'm going to go with manual, width 178, fit between two rafters, height 1200, but that's reasonable size. And before I go for color and glazing type, I'm going to click on the cost. And actually, if you notice, it's the same type of filter as what we'd be dealing with within the price book and even the specification. Now I can see there that the cheapest window at that size is £308. The most expensive window at that price is £629. It's almost double the cost. Same size window. But that one there, the most expensive one, is white polyurethane with extra noise reduction. So effectively, triple glazed or whatever. If I go to the cheapest one, it is a white painted with safety glazing. And let's say we want to do white polyurethane for everything. The cheapest one then becomes $379, and the most expensive $629. Still, there we go. So the range of different glazing makes a big difference on this. Safety glazing $279, opaque $419. If I'd be doing a bathroom. Comfort glazing $463. Enhanced security, I think that's just like a toughened glass, so people can't smash their way through. $479, which does make me chuckle. I haven't actually fitted a Velux window in the last couple of years. I will be honest, not done it in the last couple of years. Not, been on the tools very much lately. So I don't know if they changed the system on this one, but there's literally a method with just a screwdriver. You can open a window from externally, unless it's locked. Always lock your Velux, because you can poke your way into them. Low energy, so again, we're probably getting to the thermal values here as well. And again, if you're trying to catch up on thermal values, if they've gone for a go at whacking bifold, which you're not exactly going to have the best thermal values on, unless it weighs an absolute ton, then you're going to try to be making it up with your ceiling insulation, wall insulation, floor insulation, things like your Veluxes here. Might have to go up a little grade to make sure you're actually hitting your thermal values. We can presume that we're okay with our thermal values on this one and just pick the safety glazing. And because the type of window we've selected, MK06, is quite a popular one, it has the full range of flashing kits available, that allow us to make it watertight with the tiles or roof covering around it. We're going to go with the standard tile flashing kit on this one, nothing flashy, pun intended. Though you do have access to the recessed ones if you're feeling particularly fancy. Just bear in mind as well, some windows people might require or choose or specify may not have an appropriate flashing kit. If they pick a type of window and then say they want a slate roof, there might not be a slate flashing kit available to them. You might have to just bodge it with a tile flashing kit and see how you get on. We've got our insulation collars, felt collars, and vapor barrier collars because they needed more things to sell us. There is a tick box there for vapor barrier to roof. If you're putting this in an existing roof, it does just gives you an extra section of felt to put under the lap above of the felt, so you can make it watertight because you're about to butcher a hole in the felt and it's hard to make watertight from that, so it gives you a bit of extra material to do that with. And then we can pick from blinds. I'm going to hit skip on this one, not going to worry about the blinds. Confirm the values of this. Now, one of the reasons it confirms the values of this is because the resources at this moment do not exist in our price book. It's something we learned as a lesson when it comes from the kind of the doors and so forth there, is that if you have the entire range of something in your price book, it makes your price book a bit big. And when you've got over 900 odd windows and over 3,000 blinds, it's best to generate them on the fly, especially when every different window size is going to have a different flashing kit, possibly from 3 to 5 different flashing kits to go into it, different size insulation collars. It's absurd. So I'm going to click finish. Say number of roof windows 2 and click OK. Now, moving on to things like the internal walls. These are in a custom template. We add them in and define them as we go. In a linked template, they are all added in and linked, ready to use by adding in a length. If we do not need any internal cavity walls, we do not add any length. Do not need any single skin walls of either downstairs aerated with foundation strip or without foundations, do not add a length. Go to there for single skin lightweight walls. It's picking out stud wall. If we do not need stud wall, we do not add a length. If you do need something, all you do is just drop in the length and that's done. You can just tally up the total length required. You don't have to do it individually, just tally up the whole lot. That is generally the essence of we're working with templates. You're not trying to do everything individually. And as such, we have no internal doors to add there as well. If you do have internal doors to add in, when you add them in, it'll ask you what wall they're sat in so it knows what appropriately walls to exclude from this. I will return back to the rooms in a bit I'm just going to work through, just look at what the last calculators it is that we need to possibly add in before we're done and need to dive into other sections. I don't need to add plastering in. The whole new extension is plastered already by dint of the walls and calculators we've used. I could use that to add plastering elsewhere though if there's some additional plastering to do. So I'm going to do that in the walls. Same with decoration. Structural beams and posts sit separately. I'm not going to add any in, but I'm going to show you that you got the glulam beams there, you've got your steel beams and your steel posts. So you can do more complicated steel works within the job if need be. And say it's more likely now that you're going to be doing that. I find that even some basic jobs tend to have more complicated steels in than what they were before. But it's like the structural opening we looked at, except it's not calculating for demolition. It literally wants to know the beam, is it being encased, and what's it sat on either end, and does it need any cost for welding or fixing to something else. So you can read through a set of plans and add the steels in individually as need be. We've got none in this job, so I'm going to close that down. I will pop into, though, the walling sundries. There are elements in here that could be added in elsewhere, like, say, stone seals, could be added in doors and windows. But we can add in things like stone coins, chimneys, chimney stack in there as well. Cladding with horizontal or vertical timbers. So outside of the main walls, which would do the cladding as part of them, if you needed to clad a section of wall to match in with this, you might be doing a renovation, you need to clad the existing with new timbers, then you'll find those wall calculators in here. Same with garden walls with coping, dental courses, gas flue systems, header courses. But also, very importantly, things like lintels below ground. So when you've got jobs where you are working over services, like say it could be like a drain run running underneath, or your waste pipe running from a downstairs toilet running underground to match up with the drainage outside, it has to go under a lintel. You can add those lintels in here. So items just to kind of build your estimate up. What I will be adding in here though is wall starters. For some reason it gives the toothing in image on that one. I'm going to go wall starters, click select. And for this, now we've done 2.4 high walls, but we are on a slope. Yeah, the back bit is, higher because it's a lean-to. So I'm just going to go in there 2.7. Now this is, and let's pop image there, giving 2.7 meters of wall starter. Time to allow it to fit that, 1 hour. Is the joint sealed? Yes. Allow for sundries, £5. Finish. If I look in the actual estimating calculator for this, or which I say you'll be familiar with from the last session, look at the calculated resources, see how much wall starter it's ordered. So a usage factor 0.41. If I look at edit resource, what does that mean? One wall starter does for 2.3999. Okay, so it's just one strip of wall starter. That means I'm going to need 3 more. So I'm going to go add item, 2.7, select, click finish. Add item, 2.7, select, finish, and then add item again, 2.7, select, and click finish. So there we go. That's the 2 walls, 2 leaves each, all with wall starters. Now as I'm working down this as well, I've got renovation demolition. this would be appropriate. I need to click Add Estimating Calculators here. I'm not going to be doing the renovations for the existing part of the house. In here, I'm going to use a room for that in just a moment. But just to note, all the range of options in here, and we can make a comparison to the ones available in the room. We have all the items that are structural renovation works as well. So demolition of walls, removal of concrete slab, replacement doors and casings, replacement fire doors, renovation slabs. Also things like we have the internal renovation, internal stripping out, which are available in the rooms, as well as roof renovation and universal flat roof renovation. Those there, even though they're renovation calculators, have lines within them for the demolition. In the roof renovation, on the final page, there's a tab for labour and plant, in which case you can just use the number of skips in time to demolish an existing roof before putting a new one on. You can just ignore all the dimensions for it. What we will be looking at within here is a calculator called temporary house and drive protection. Since we're going to be working on an extension, the rest of the house we don't want to be making a mess. I'm going to click on this one and say select. And since it's the only calculator selected, it's gone straight in. Now we've got carpet protection rolls, hard floor protection rolls. We might be working in a house that's got hard floors, so we're going to we're going to get a roll of that in, 0.6 by 100 meters. This allows, it might be the hallway walking through from front of the house to the back. We're walking through materials, we don't want to wreck it, we'll put some hard floor protection down. Not walking up the stairs, so we don't need rigid stair protectors or banister protectors, but we might put in a stair post protector because we were walking past one and we don't want to whack it with plasterboard timbers as we go by. Same again for corner protectors, big corners of walls that we might knock. Protective low tack plastic wrap, jointing tape, self-adhesive, bubble wrap, and plastic overshoots. We're not going to be going to that extent, so we're going to just leave it as that. Bathroom and kitchen partitioning. There we've got sink protectors, toilet protectors. We're not renovating any of this, so we could not use those. But we might use, we've got 1.5 by 65 there. I'm going to get a roll of polythene sheet because could be that we've got an opening into the room we're working on that we need to block up. So when we're cutting the opening for our extension, we're not filling the house full of dust. We can use dust reduction methods, water spray and all that, gubbins and vacuums, but there's still going to be dust, and we want to stop that wandering around the house. It's even got zip wall poles and zip wall door kits and stuff we can add in as well. Now, because these are things that might be going up and down all the time, I'm not going to worry about labour to install. I'm just going to click next to look at the external stuff. So there you've got things like ground protection maps, OSB boards for drive protection, plywood sheets for drive protection, tarpaulins and polythene ground sheets. Because when you're working on a property, depending on what storage space you've got, you might be working in the back garden, you might want to put materials down, you want to wreck their lawn, you might want to put something down, like say OSB for the driveway. That's there, so you can whack down a sheet for the skip to sit on so you don't wreck their driveway. They might have had their driveway done. They might be very upset if you drop a skip straight on it and leave a gouged scrape and marks all over it that they will then subsequently try and get money out of you for. It's cheaper just to buy a couple of sheets of OSB and whack them down. Same things goes for any other things that you might be getting delivered or stored on site. You might not want to put it directly on their driveway or on their grass. You want to put something down to protect it, spread the weight and so forth. I'm going to put in here 3 sheets of OSB. Skip can go on that. If we've got space on the drive or space in the garden for the skip to go on, pop some timber down so we're not going to wreck everything underneath it. You can pop in a polythene ground sheet in there as well. And then just click finish. There we go. Bit of extra cost in there. And things that you might be having to buy anyway, or you don't even think about even comes into your costs, might be coming out of your overheads because you never considered to add it to the job. You just buy it regardless because you might need it. in which case, you should be charging the customer for it. Rolling down as well, so working progressively through this. Not going to do plumbing and electrics. I've got that to do under rooms. Same with fitting out. It's going to go under rooms. Drainage, I can add things in individually. Like say soakaways, manhole covers and stuff there. But I'm going to cheat. I'm going to go add group of items and say foul drainage. Nope, I just need surface drainage. Because I don't need like vent pipe and 2 shallow access chambers or anything like that. I just need surface drainage. Could be putting a new soakaway, or could be linking into an existing one. So surface drainage extension with 1 rainwater connection to existing soakaway. Lovely. That'd do it. Quite a few options in there, like surface drainage for small, medium and large houses, extensions with different numbers of connections. But surface drainage with one item, and drainage plant for extension using mini digger. There we go. Add those in. I've got a day to dig that out. And the drain surface runs there. All done. I can just bespoke that as well, because they add extra numbers of back-end let gullies or extra number of bends and stuff there. If you're going to overestimate on one, you figure out on site what you're actually going to need. Just overestimate a little bit here. Moving down a little bit further, so where are the types? So external works, I'm going to drop in there a site strip, and site strip using mini digger. Now, the reason I want to use site strip is because I want to get the site taken down to level. I'm going to say the site is going to be 6 by 4, not 12 by 40. That's a bit too much. But this calculator allows me to just take down a certain level of material to keep for use again on site. If you do large sites, you want to keep a pile of material to level things out, landscaping and so forth. I'm not going to bother with that, but I'm going to dig down 0.3. It could be an average on this to dig out. It could be 0 one end, 0.6 on the other. I'll put 0.3 as an average depth. This calculator just wants a length, width and depth to remove material. Doesn't care if you're digging it out to do a site strip for your extension, if you're digging it out for a patio, digging out a really big section for a swimming pool, or digging out a really big section for a basement. Doesn't care, it just wants volumes. And on page 2, what we're digging it out with. Now, I'm using a mini digger because I'm doing a small section. I am going to adjust the number of days of banksman, possibly. I'll put in 2. It'll probably be 1 day, but I'll give 2 days of someone in there to make sure they don't accidentally go through any drain pipes or electrical pipes or gas pipes as they're stripping down. And number of weeks of dumper 0. And then I've got number of deliveries and collections of heavy plant 4. So this is the delivery and collection of the mini digger, which can then be on site for the foundations and footings and so forth. Click finish. Not going to do any landscaping. I am going to go into the prelims and sundries though. I'm not going to use scaffolding. I'm going to use a subcontract quotation of the scaffolding. So I'm going to go straight to site establishment and travel costs. Sundry plant does allow me to add in things like some generator hire, cement mixer hire if I haven't got one, basic hand tools, which I tend to ignore, rubber chutes if you're doing 2 stories, water bowsers, but also, quite conveniently, extra rubbish bags. I'm going to focus on site establishment travel costs for this one. I'm going to select those. And because I've added in 2, it's just listed them as not gone straight in. So I'm going to go in with the site establishment on add item, new spec, and say it's going to be small extension, not using customer toilet. So there's options between using customer toilet or not. I'm not going to use this one. Select that. It'll give me a site cabin for 6 weeks. I don't need a site cabin. But a site toilet for 6 weeks. I'm going to make that 8. Actually, I'm going to put that up to 12. It's best to overorder. It's got option there for length of security fencing. So making sure that, you know, people can't get access to the site. It's very, very, very important. Because under CDM, if you are the principal contractor or the contractor on site, it is your responsibility that people cannot get onto the site when they're not authorized, because if they get on, they can have an accident. That means including things like, you know, locking up your scaffold and stuff like that. I do believe it was the other day, somebody got fined. Say, what he fell in? Or was it 10-year-old? Ah, yeah, 10-year-old fell into a 20-foot manhole on construction site and died because he snuck on site to have a little look. So, yeah, fencing, important. Might only need, like, say, a few meters just to block off the front or back. You know, I've got 10 meters in there. Might only need it for 8 weeks, not to be the full duration of it. Fences back up by the time. Might just have the fences down. So the site around the corner for me recently, they took down all the garden walls so they can get work done quickly. They just put fencing around, and when it's done, they rebuilt the walls. Don't need a JCB to clear the site. Don't need a compound. But I can have a skip on site from day one. Don't need a compound. If I do need skip permits, I can drop that cost in here. Any skip parking bay suspension cost in there as well. So number of days, I've got the cost in there already. So when we looked at the skips, I put the cost of the parking base suspension in there. Insurance cost, insurance for the job, site security, again, padlocks, chains, ring doorbell camera to put up on the corner of the site. So if someone comes on site, detects movement, you can see it going on. The camera starts recording. You can see what's going on site. Very, very, very handy. And so health and safety costs as well. So things like cover the cost of your safety equipment like hard hats, high vises, goggles, masks, general PPE, documentation, paying someone to do that for you, all that kind of McGubbins, and traffic regulation costs. So again, things like traffic cones or just the cost for closing the road for a day to get a crane in to lift in your stills. I'm going to click finish on that one. Then I'm going to have a little look at the travel costs. Add item to there. Now this one is again subjective. You might want to include this in your job cost or just use it to figure out what the cost might be. Or if you're having to pay, just put the parking in there, just so you can factor in the fact that, you know, some jobs you have to pay parking. Good example, South Bristol, we have resident parking permits. People in their area pay so much per year for the privilege of parking their car outside of their own home, or at least within the local area, and they get so many days of parking for guests per year. They can't, or they're not so inclined to use all their guest parking allocation for the builders to get work done. So they are actually fully aware and understand that if builders they want builders in to do work for them, those builders will have to get permits, and that will be costs that will be allocated towards the job. It's basically, you know, daily parking charge, and you can drop that in, number of days parking fee payable, and number of days congestion charge payable as well. So if you have to go in and out of let's say a parking zone for the job, again, they will be fully aware that if they want you in there, you have to pay for congestion charge, unless you've got vans that don't incur that, and you can cover that there as well. I'm not going to pop anything into those. I'm just going to use the calculator just to look at the cost of a van quickly. Let's say you've got a job that's 5 miles away, so it's 10 miles a day. Let's bring the calculator up. 5 miles away times 2, 10 miles. I'll say 10 miles a day, 5 miles. There we go. Times 5 for the week, times 12, which we said we're going to be saying as the job length. 600 miles. If I drop in 600 miles for a medium van, so like an average transit, look at the cost of our job, just over £10 over 29,000. So 420 odd quid. That's your fuel running costs allocated towards that vehicle. So it can make a big difference, especially on a smaller job like this, especially if you've got that distance to travel. There's one or two worth noting. Now I'm going to move on to the last thing I was going to do in here before moving on to the rooms, which is subcontract quotation. Very simple one. Pick out the type of quotation we want to throw in there. It could be a kitchen fitting contractor, plumbing, electrics, anything along those lines there. I'm going to use this for a scaffolding contractor. Let's say item used for scaffolding. Cost allowance, I could just put 900 for this one. It's just be a little quick wrap around. And it's going to be in the build phase of X scaffold. Nice and easy. You can put the cost of scaffolding anywhere, but it's just, this one automatically sits in just before at the same time as the masonry shell. So I got my scaffolding. Now, I've not done plumbing or electrics. I will leave them out for now, but I'm going to quickly do the room, the existing room, and then I will do some assumptions and omissions to see how they go in. I'm going to use my jump to section to go to the rooms. And just to note, the rooms focus on existing spaces. So this could be an existing room or or room that you've just created. They do not do structural works. They have to be a space that can just have things applied to them, like an empty room that needs flooring and decorating, or an empty room that needs completely gutting, hacking plaster off walls and replastering, or a kitchen stripped out, bathroom stripped out, and so forth. But they don't do things like making knock-throughs or putting in new doors or windows. Because of time, I'm only going to do the one room. You can use the rooms a second time to populate the existing part of the extension, the extension with flooring. Sometimes I add flooring into the existing and then merge them together. But in this case, I'm just going to focus on rectangular room with flat ceiling and this be the room we're attaching the extension to, and just say that this is going to get a renovation skim. So I'm going to call this one lounge and add that in. I can say the room length is going to be 4 by 3, and the height of the walls is 2.4. You'll ask what kind of openings are in here so it knows what's not plaster. If I go to link estimated opening, I know that the only one that is actually applicable to this is universal beam there because of the structural opening. We can ignore the rest. But that's not the only opening in the room. If I go to add existing opening, there might be an internal door into this room. So height, say 2 meters, width 0.9, and say it's an internal door. Click OK. There might be other openings into this room, like structural openings and so forth there, but I'm going to just leave it as those two. There was a window, but that's now gone. There's an extension there. And now I can add items to this room. So I go to the add estimating calculators. I get a list of all the items I can add directly into here. So you see there we've got, say, plumbing items for kitchens and bathrooms, demolition works. So there's not really too much. Removal of floor tiles and removal of wall tiles. It's not really much in the way of demolition there. Replacing doors and casings. Replace fire doors, replace panel doors. So we can do the doors, but not put new doors in. Just take the doors off the hinges, a new one goes on. Electrical works. It's good sometimes to do the rooms by electricals, but there's also templates in here. And all the fitting out, so much more appropriate for what we're doing. What I'm going to add in here, if I search for Reno or filter by Reno, gives the list down, I'm going to use internal renovation and internal stripping out. So filter by Reno, internal renovation and internal stripping out. With those two ticked, I'm going to click select, and I'm going to quickly go into the internal stripping out first. I'm going to go add worksheet. I can say if there's a number of doors to be demolished or removed from this. I can say there is a single door. Actually, no, I'm not going to bother that. Actually, I'm going to leave. So there's just a window in this room. But if I do need to cost for the removal of doors and so forth there, so I can start adding it. But there was, say, a single window in here that needed to be removed first. I'm not going to bother with the total length of skirting and wall moldings to remove because the next calculator will handle that. But I can say the area of floor covering for removal or carpet for removal. So what size of my room? 3x4 for 12. Got no fireplaces to remove, so that's fine. Don't need to disconnect the mains water or anything like that because I'm not doing anything complicated. Not bothering about a number of, well, actually, say put one radiator to remove. No bathroom suites to strip out. No bathroom tiles to strip off. No kitchen units to strip out. No kitchen appliances to remove of. No cost for disposal of those. And there is a option here as well. So if you're working, say, you've bought a house at auction, you've got to strip it out of all the junk. You can say number of hours for general removal of household contents. You can do this calculator globally for the whole house, or you can do it room by room to give the cost per room to remove stuff. And then part quantity of skip for household contents if need be. So with that done, I'm just going to click finish. See a couple of things going in there. And then I'm going to go on to the internal renovation. With the internal renovation, I'm going to click add worksheet. I'm going to say reskim, skirt and decorate. Select that. And because it's just a reskim, that's ideal for the existing room. We're not hacking anything off. It's not going to need too much. It just needs a bit of a freshen up. Carpet gone, freshen up the walls. The customer can put their own hardwood floor down if need be. So I've got even options there to strip wallpaper as well. So worthwhile reading through the calculator to see what options they're giving you. The internal renovation one is a combination of hacking plaster from walls, replastering and redecorating, and the skirting board calculators all thrown into one. Oh, as well as remove ceiling and replaster ceiling. You can see that there's one internal door, so it's going to remove the architrave, replace it with new, remove the skirtings, and replace the skirtings with new skirtings in here as well. No windows, so there's nothing to do there. One opening, so it's going to do beads around that. We've already said it needs beads, but that's fine. And then ceiling as well. Now, so it could be that if you got new lighting in here, the ceiling could be coming down and a new one going up once it's been insulated or soundproofed, because it's easier than just cutting holes in the existing. In which case you can just say remove ceiling, yes. And leave it a note, just going to give it a skim, tidy it up. It could be Harbor latex up there, something like that. Might as well just remove it actually if you've got latex. This is going to get like a nice little tidied up skim to make it nicer. And just click finish. There you go. So that room, existing room now, is effectively re-skimmed and decorated. And the floor, old carpet's been removed, and the cost of the window before demolition is factored in as well. It's worthwhile practicing adding things like, say, wood flooring. If you do add in wood flooring, there are certain things that are worthwhile noting. If you're doing something like wood floor, it also asks if you want to remove the skirting board as well. So you just zero out the link for skirting board to remove because it's already coming off, because its room's getting stripped. So I've used the rooms there to freshen up one of the rooms. This leaves me now with the final bits, which was to look at the assumptions and omissions, provisional sums if there are any, I don't think there's going to be, and cost breakdown. I've got to swap something. If I go into, first off, the assumptions and omissions, I'm going to look in here. Now I've got nothing in my library of assumptions that I've written before, so I can add back in. A new feature in the software is that if you add assumptions in, you can save them for future use as well, so you don't have to keep typing them. I'm going to go add assumption and say assumed access to customer water and electricity, because that is one that's come up before, and I'm even going to hit save on that one. So if I go to my manage library, it's in there in my library. If I go add assumption again, assumed spelling right, access to customer driveway or skips and storage. Assumed access to nearby free parking. There you go, I've got to throw in there. Might save those as well for future use. But what I can also add in there, so the customer's aware that I've not done these, I can go add omission and say omitted electrical costs due to lack of specification, because you don't know what lights they want in that extension or in the new renovated living room. You don't know how many plug sockets they want in there. They've just not put that up in the app. You could make a punt for it, but then they turn around and want gold-plated face plates on their sockets, and you're stuck to a cost. So we go omitted costs due to lack of specification. Because again, it could be that it's easier just to copy and paste in the alarm spell check. Save that one. Oh, that's already saved. And save that one. Because you could turn around and go, oh yeah, we've got plumbing costs and electrical costs, and then turn around and go, oh no, we wanted electrical underfloor heating. Now, it might balance out, but still a nuisance. And so you want to have as many things, say anything assumptions you've made on the job, assumed things. Always make aware that you've assumed that, so the customer's aware of what you're expecting, where you stand and where they stand. It could be quite clear on that one. And on the omitted side of things as well, you say what you've not done, because you've not got enough information to do that accurately. The customer can see that you say you're being honest about it. It does actually bring down the headline cost of your job, but you're also saying I have not cost for these things because you've not said what you want in this. There's the options you've got to do this task is far too varied. Provisional sums, I'm not going to add anything into this one today, but it's just where we can, again, as a reminder, pop-in costs that the customer is aware of. If they've ordered their doors and windows, or if they've picked them out and they know the catalog price for them, you put those in here at that catalog price. If you are installing a kitchen, they've already picked the kitchen out, you put the cost of the kitchen in here. So add provisional sum, long description, short description, build phase, location, and its cost. So then it appears in the quote minus the profit markup, so they didn't turn around and go, well, that kitchen cost 9 grand, or you charging me 14 for it. But the last thing I'm going to do, because we have hit 12 o'clock, is have a little look at the cost breakdown. I'm going to go to the cost breakdown button. And you saw us just now when it was empty. Now it's got a lot more things in there. I can see the most expensive calculator is my 2-leaf external wall, but that is doing plastering, decoration, footings, foundations, and everything. If I look at a cost by build phase, I can see my masonry shell was so expensive, but I've got my plastering, foundations, all the other tasks listed through. But what I'm going to look at is the editable resource breakdown. Now this gives me access to all the resources I've used within the job. It allows me to change things in there as well. I can look at the estimating calculator PVCU windows, and I can see everything done within the PVCU window. If I say I just want to look at materials within the PVCU window, I can see just the materials being rolled. If I go type, I could filter this right down to say lintels, and I can look at lintels. I could, if I said all on there and build phase all materials I will, and just filter by lintels, I could look at lintels for the entire job. There you go. So I've got 1 second. So on that there, you can see if I just look at lintels as the only filter on this one, I can see the lintel for the bifold door and the window. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is go to the external combination lintel, and I'm going to click on change in here. And where I've got a steel 100mm cavity one, if I just scroll up and go up to some standard duty ones, say standard duty 150, 130, 145, there we go, standard duty ones. And I just find one that is, there you go, 900. Ironically, toward the bottom of the list, let's go small number then big numbers, because 9 instead of 4, after 4. 80 quid, set that one. It's 1 for 1 because it's just a lintel. Click OK. So I can use the cost breakdown to look at all the different resources within the job to find or remove things. I can use this to look at all the doors in the job, and I can say, oh, actually, I could set that as not required and put it under the provisional sums because the customer's requested something different. So those are the options I've got there. If there's anything you want to know more about that, please let me know. We say we've come to the end of the session there and gone through the single story. So there's actually polls for this one, or is it to the? No, there's no polls for this session, or just on that one. So are there any questions before we finish for today? I'm gonna say if you've got a question, but it might take too long to type out, hit the raise hand icon just so I know you've got something inbound. Last thing I want to do is end the session as you just finish typing. No? Okay, so no one's got any questions they want to ask. In that case then, thank you very much for attending. On Thursday, we will be jumping into the build program and hit save on this job, so it is saved. And continue on. We're going to go build program, reports, and quote on Thursday. Thank you very much for attending. I shall see you all then. Have a good day. Bye.